One, two, three, go. All right. Hey, everybody. We are live tonight. We have a special guest here in the house. I mean, I don't think she needs any introduction. It is the amazing attorney, Regina Ward. I'm just going to read this because she sent it to me. And this is quite an introduction here of where she's been with her career as an attorney out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She's been featured on News Nation with Ashley Banfield, interviewed by Rich McHugh, Nancy Grace. That's got to be interesting. You've been on there four times. Law and Order Sidebar with Jesse Weber, and four times with Fitz News. You've been on local news stations. What local news stations do you like there in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina?
Well, my favorite is WBTW.
W. I love that W. Countless newspapers, broadcasts. When did all this kind of start for you? This
In terms of being on the news and so many programs you're talking about?
Yes.
Well, and earlier in my career, I'd been on a few things. Like I did a Cheaters. On the news and so many programs.
Oops, I'm getting this on TikTok here. There we go. Okay, gotcha.
So I was invited before to do a feature on cheaters and from a lawyer's perspective in terms of how to get people to, or how people could prepare for, to their evidence and so forth. Right. And so that was one of the things that I did. But frankly, my biggest thing has been, of course, the Mica Miller case is what I've been on there primarily for.
Right. Now that's a big case. That's coming up on almost a year. You want to give us a little background on Mica Francis? Did we call her Mica Francis? Make sure I'm getting it right, or are we dropping the Miller name? What are we doing?
Yes. So, of course, her married name is Mica Miller. Her maiden name is Mica Francis.
Right.
Because we don't want to give any tribute to Mr. Miller.
Okay.
In regard to the name, we all pretty much refer to her as Mica Francis now.
Okay.
So Mica was going through a separation period with her husband. They had, goodness, it's such a long story. I'll make it as short as I can. I put it succinctly. Anyway, she walked into my office because she needed a divorce attorney. And while I am a general practitioner, I do criminal law, domestic law, and also some civil litigation. But most of my practice has to do with family court. And when she came to my office, she had reached, this was like round 2 for her to try to leave Mr. Miller. And whenever she came to my office, she didn't want to, scorched earth tactics, so to speak. She had finally come to this resolution that she was comfortable in, that she was going to, separate and ultimately divorce from her husband. So when she came to me, she retained me basically for what's called a separate maintenance and support action. A lot of people refer to it and have from day one a divorce, but we hadn't got to that point yet. So anyway, she had retained me for that.
How are her spirits? Not to interrupt you. How are her spirits when she came in? I'm sure nobody's really happy to go see a divorce attorney, but overall, how was her spirits?
Yeah, that's true. So in her situation, I'm telling you right now, when Mica walked into my office, it was I always say it's like a bright shining light. She had such a beautiful inner aura that it just beamed. And because she had reconciled the situation with her husband, that she was ready to move on. She was obviously very torn about the end of her marriage, just like any normal person would be. Right. But she was excited for her future because she was a very religious woman, and she had found basically her calling, is what she said to me, and that was to build schools in Africa. And so she had gone on a mission trip before, and so she felt like that was what she was born to do. And so she was super excited about her future and getting involved in that, getting untangled from the marriage, and basically moving forward. So I found her to be quite pleasant. She was, this what we call situational type depression. I don't like to use the word depression, but it's basically whenever, one's going through a divorce, it's not happy times. But she had come to she was accepting, what she was experiencing at the time.
Okay.
So anyway, part of the thing, that was happening with her is what we refer to as coercive control, and it's a very difficult type of abuse to explain to people. And I ended up doing what's called a Mica's list, and it's basically a breakdown of the different elements in coercive control. And I know we're going to get to that at some point, but anyway, Mica brought her story brought a big shining light to this form of abuse.
Yeah, and she talked to you about that when she was talking to you about retaining you as an attorney for a divorce attorney?
Yes, absolutely. She had shared some of the things that she experienced with her husband, and those things that. Well, let me back up and say, in South Carolina, to get a divorce in the state of South Carolina, you have to have grounds for divorce, and there's basically 4 grounds: habitual alcohol or drug abuse, adultery. Of course, is one. She definitely had the she could have pursued adultery. There's also physical cruelty, which she could have pursued based on the facts that she had shared with me. So, but she didn't want to go forward with a divorce on grounds at that time. Her husband was a pastor in the church that she was very much a part of and helped growing and so forth. And she just loved that church. She loved the people who were there. She had a beautiful voice. She sang in the music ministry. She was involved with the children, the youth group, and things like that. So it was very, very difficult for her to come to that place. But the allegations were that Mr. Miller, her husband, had done all kinds of forms of harassment, stalking, involving financial abuse, cutting off credit cards, access to money, taking her car, having her committed on false grounds with regard to, mental health types of things. And so he had just done so many things according to, what she had shared with me. Now, the interesting thing with her is that she kept journals. She loved to write, and she journaled a lot of things. She journaled her prayers. She journaled, she had her to-do list, but she also journaled her feelings, and she journaled a lot of things that were happening to her in her life. And so those journals that she had, they gave a story. So,
yeah.
And those were very important to her case.
So I've had some comments here, and rightly so. The comments are going over your face, and they want to see your face versus mine. So I'm going to switch, and I agree with them.
Okay.
Let's switch you there and see if how's that. Now that they can go, the comments can go over my face. I'm not fun to look at, anyways. You're the star here tonight, so let's do that.
That's funny.
Yeah, they did. They were like, the comments are going over her face. We want to see her. So how long after she had contacted you and been into your office and talked to you about wanting to divorce her husband, did the tragic incident happen?
Yes, that was not very long. She had retained me, I think, in the earlier part of April, and I'm sorry, I don't have the exact dates in front of me at the moment, but I think that we ended up filing the action around April the 15th or something like that. She passed, excuse me, she passed away on April the 27th. And so 2 days before she passed on the 25th is when I had him served with the separation papers. And of course, whenever she passed away, it was shocking. It was just totally shocking.
How did you find out?
I want to say, I'm pretty sure it was her brother that contacted my office and told me about that.
I mean, that had to have been a shock to you, of course, anytime you hear that news about anybody. But, as I'm listening to you, you're talking about a person who comes in who's excited. She's talking about going to Africa and building schools and just wants a separation. In your mind, she seemed like she was clear-minded.
Yes.
And so that's a hard one, I think, for people to swallow that this happened for, and listen, I can never explain why anybody does that, nor can anybody, figure it out. I think it's,
Right.
there's a lot of factors that go into it, and it's tragic all around. But I think that's one of the things that people are just really confused about, and rightly so.
Yeah, and I had someone else on a different news program, I think it was, or someone that was interviewing me. They asked me, they said, so when you found out, how did you, what did you think? How did you feel? And I was like, I don't believe it. There's just no way. There's no way that this woman that walked into my office, of course she knew he was getting served. I tell my clients that, my process server has the paperwork, and my process server will call you whenever he's served. So,
Were they separated at the time? Were they not living together?
correct. They had been separated for a little while. Now they would be together, then separate and together. Mr. Miller would do things constantly. It was like the rubber band effect. It's like, I don't want you, let me cast you out. But now that you're leaving, let me pull you back in. It was a constant back and forth with him. He just, just did so many things according to, and I have to say allegations, of course, but quite frankly, I don't have any reason not to believe anything that Mica told me, because I feel like the detail and the extent of the facts that she shared with me, the proofs that she shared with me, and one of those proofs was a video that that she had shared with me, and how it got out in the universe, I'm not sure. But I saw it out on social media, and it was where he was threatening to upload an intimate photo of her, an intimate photo that was taken meant for her husband's eyes only. And so as a form of, intimidation, threat, coercion, you better do what I say, or I'm going to upload your photo for all the world to see. And he actually wrote a letter apologizing for all of these things that he did. And of course, later on, he explained it away, saying, oh, he just wrote that letter because Mica said, you better write that letter and apologize for those things. Okay, whatever. I don't have any doubt in my mind that this man mistreated and abused his wife in many, many, many kind of ways, and constantly doing things just to control her and to manipulate her. It was just never, I feel like she thought at some point, in the earlier, when she had another lawyer at another time before me, when they were separated and was going through a divorce. I think he filed one and then he dropped it or something like that. But anyway, anytime she was trying to, separate herself from him, he would dangle a carrot of some kind, come back, I'll buy you a new car. Come back and I'll do this. He used church stationery to send letters to her, called her the first lady, which she was the first lady of the church. But he would, make demands, and he demeaned her, and he said different things to her to manipulate her. And it was just a constant back and forth. And this young woman she had just turned 30 on March the 7th is her birthday. So she had just had her 30th birthday, and very young, and they were married for, I think it was about around 10 years or so. So she spent her entire 20s with this man, married to him.
Yeah, she seemed like a really bright light. I mean, I didn't know her, and but the pictures and the videos and things that I've seen of her, she seemed like a real bright light. Someone who was very happy and enjoyed life. So it's hard to imagine doing what she did, but she did it. But
yeah, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
I still don't. I still can't believe it. If of course, Robeson County, the investigation declared it to be self-inflicted and personal unaliving, but I don't know that I really believe that a proper investigation happened under that scenario. I think there's a tendency sometimes whenever, like if a call comes in, the receiving officer hears, hey, there's been an unaliving in this particular situation. We need you to go check it out.
Right.
Well, when they show up on the scene, I think they look for things to confirm it was that, as opposed to showing up at the scene going, well, let's look at this a little differently. It may not be that. So let's see if there's any other evidence that shows contrary to that.
Yeah.
I wasn't there to see what they did, but I've been in this case from the very beginning. I've seen all kinds of information from all kinds of sources, and it just doesn't make any sense. And when I was asked, I just don't believe it. There's just no way that she would have done that.
Yeah.
And so people say, well, why? How could it have happened? Well, anything I think is just a theory, and my theory is based on the history of the relationship, that there is no doubt in my mind, and I think he even made this admission, a little piece of it anyway, is that once he got served, he probably just blew her phone up over and over and over and over again with calls and texts and so forth to, just really just driving her, just making her feel like, goodness gracious, go call my lawyer. That's why I have one, right?
Right. Yeah. Somebody here in the comments says she pretended to be happy. She was miserable married to him.
Well, you know what? That comment is about right. I know that she was miserable to be married to him, but at the same time, she was a religious woman, and she really struggled with reconciling, should I get a divorce? She did not want there to be a smear on the church. She was a very godly woman, and she took her vows very seriously. But she also made a video. I know that a lot of folks will be familiar with it. She made a video. She said, God does hate divorce. He hates divorce. Okay. And so she wanted to be a dutiful wife to her husband, despite the despicable things that this man would ask her to do. She would try to be a dutiful wife, and then turn around and say, okay, you're supposed to pray for your enemy, i.e., pray for the person who's hurting you. At this point, pray for your husband who's doing terrible, terrible things to you, just like she said in her video. And then the other thing she said, which I just thought was just like so powerful, is God hates divorce, but how does he feel about abuse? He hates that too, probably more than divorce. And he certainly doesn't want, his children to be living in an abusive situation. That's not, acceptable to God either.
Yeah. Somebody made a comment here that said, if you find me, she said, she wrote a note to somebody somewhere you probably know better, that if I'm found unalived, he did it.
Yes, there was. She actually had told that to a few of her family members. You have to understand, this case has a long history to it that would take, probably we could do a series here. Okay, there's so many levels to this case, but yes, there was that concern. There was a concern, that he had something to do with it in some form, and she had made that. She said that, and I think. I think that even her father had made some comment about getting something for protection because of him. I can't remember that for sure, but I know that was what she had expressed to her sister and her brother, and I'm pretty sure it was her father too.
So I think this leads right into what we were talking about before, and I think you're very passionate about, is coercive control. So let's just take for a second and set aside that people think that he might have physically done it.
Yeah.
Okay. The sheriff hasn't said that, and the ME hasn't said that. Whether they're right or wrong, it was a terrible investigation. That's a whole different story. Let's set that over there for a second.
Sure.
Let's just say, when we say he did it, allegedly, of more coercive control and what that means in coercive control. Because I think people hear that term and they're like, well, I think I kind of know what it means. And I mean, and from an attorney standpoint, how would you describe what coercive control would be as it would relate to Mica Francis and her husband?
Yeah, and it would really relate to others who are living in it. So that is the thing. It's I keep saying over and over again. I really wish I could develop what I call an elevator speech for a pitch for coercive control, because there's so much to it. But I had written a sample letter that people should be sending to their legislators demanding this law. And
Where is that letter?
well, actually, if you send an email to Micah's Law SC for South Carolina at gmail.com, there'll be an automatic response that'll give you the outline and the template for the letter. You can
You
also
know,
call my office and we'll email it to you directly.
you know what? I will put that on my website because I am working on my website at crimeandcast.com. I'm working on an article right now that's an in-depth article on coercive control.
Nice.
So that would be perfect. And honestly, when you talk about Myrtle Beach, because you have such a presence of, I mean, I don't know what else to call them. I guess protesters. Is there another word I could call them?
Yeah,
Refer to
well,
them as
yes. I call them, and some other folks too, I call them demonstrators and
perfect.
supporters for domestic violence survivors
Perfect.
or
So
DV.
let's call them supporters.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of supporters in Myrtle Beach, and you're in Myrtle Beach. Who is your legislator who would be the person that they could reach out to in Myrtle Beach to say, listen, I live in Myrtle Beach. I support this group. I think it's awful what happened, but I want to stop it from ever happening again. Who is that person in Myrtle Beach?
Well, actually, in each area will have a different representative, but what we do have in Myrtle Beach is most important, in my opinion, is the head of the Judiciary Committee, and that's Senator Luke Rankin. Now, he chairs that committee. He's also a senior senator in the state of South Carolina, been there for many years, just recently got reelected, and um, he is the head of the Judiciary Committee. And the way that works is if a bill is introduced by whether it's a a representative in the House or a senator, that's what we call brought to the floor. It's read to the General Assembly, and then after that point, it goes to the Judiciary Committee, and then at that point, what's supposed to happen is it gets assigned to a subcommittee. The subcommittee is a group of people who will look at the initial bill that's
Yeah.
introduced. Okay. They'll do the research on it. They'll look at other states that have the law and see how it's working, what's not working, that sort of a deal. They'll have all kinds of research. They'll do comparative analysis. They'll have, just have a team of people that will work on it and get it in its best form and then bring it back to the floor to see if they can get it passed and move on to the next level of, from going a bill to a law. And so Senator Luke Rankin, who is the chair of that Judiciary Committee, has the power and authority to say, hey, let's take that up and assign it to a committee. Well, that particular bill was introduced both in the House of Representatives, I think at least 2 or 3 times, a minimum of 2 times, at least, maybe 3 times.
I think the last one was 2021.
Yeah, and it was also brought before the floor of the Senate, where, remember, Senator Luke Rankin sits,
Yeah.
and so that was like 3 or 4 times that it's been brought to the General Assembly. And usually what will happen is when a bill comes along that other representatives or other senators go, hey, that's something that would work for that we need in my district, or that would be, great for all of my citizens, my constituents and stuff. And they'll say, hey, attach my name to that. Well, when it was introduced, when I look at the history of it online, and you can go online and look at this yourself, just go to the South Carolina General Assembly's website, which is scstatehouse.gov. Okay. And you can look at the history of these things. And no one else attached their name to it. It's just mind blowing to me. However, I have to say that whenever I went back and looked at the original bill that was offered up, I agree it was not in good format. Okay. It had some good bones. It had a good start to it. But I'm also a criminal defense attorney, okay? And I'm very passionate about coercive control law. And even though I'm a criminal defense attorney, I promise you, I don't want anybody who is brought up on coercive control to have a loophole to get out of. So
Yeah.
whenever I read the initial draft of that bill, I thought, somebody came to me under that, as it is written in that format, I can promise you I could get them out of it. Well, I don't want them getting out of it, okay? So it needs to be tightened up. There's a lot of things that need to be done to it. There's some things that are missing on it. But going back to what, in terms of, what to do, I also put together, and I have it here in my hand, it's a step-by-step process that I put together for people who say, I don't know what to do, where to start, who do I call? Senator Rankin is the head of the Judiciary Committee. You should send a letter to him. You should send a letter to every member who on the Judiciary Committee. And on top of that, you need to send a letter to your own senator for your own district and your representative for your own district. And the template that I put, the instructions that I have here, show you how to go step by step. But really, if you just go to scstatehouse.gov and go find my senator or find my representative, you click on that and put your address in, and it'll tell you who that person is. It gives you not only their name, but their mailing address. There is a feature on the website where if you don't want to go to your computer and type up a letter, print it out and mail it off, okay, they have a feature on there that you can, I'm going to say electronic mail, but it's not like email in terms of going to your email account, but you can submit your letter online right there. And if you send the email to that email address I was telling you about, micaslawsc@gmail.com, the letter template, you could actually copy it and paste it right into that website and hit send, and boom, it's done.
That's awesome. You did all that. Fantastic. Good for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you were asking me earlier about what is it, and I said, well, I wish I really had an elevator pitch for it. And I'm still working on that, but there's just so much. And let me just explain. I'm going to read this little paragraph here. Coercive control is a pattern of behavior that can include psychological, emotional, and financial abuse, which often precedes physical violence. It's a form of domestic abuse that can have devastating effects on victims, trapping them in a cycle of fear and manipulation. And that's pretty much, like a little small thing, but let me tell you something.
Yeah.
It does not tell the story. Now, let me read you something different.
Sure.
And then maybe people will understand. So people go, oh, well, that sounds not that terrible. I mean, it sounds bad, but not that terrible.
Oh, that sounded pretty bad.
Well, let's get to the real terrible. This is Mica's list, is what I call it. This is what I put together based on the things that she shared with me. And I'm I'm not going to read like all of the detail of the support, but I'm just going to read the headline, I guess you would say.
Let's hear it.
So the first one is the very first thing these are coercive control abusers. Okay. This is where they start. Number one, isolating from family and friends. They start, saying, oh, you don't need to hang out with that person anymore. They're not that good. You need to think about your reputation. They come up with different reasons of cutting you off from your support system, your family, your best friend, even your neighbors, whatever they can do to cut you off because they don't want any outside influence to change it, to go, what do you mean that sounds like abuse? They don't want anybody saying that to them. So the first thing they do is cut you off from your family and friends, your support group. Then they can start depriving of basic needs. And I know that they're like, what does that mean? Okay, well, I got a toothache. Can I get some money to go get my tooth fixed or whatever? Yep. Oh, you'll be fine. Just tough it out or whatever. Or not having enough groceries. Part of that is financial abuse. In other words, I'm going to give you $20 to go to the grocery store and you better make it last the week or something like that. There's this, like an allowance or whatever. So depriving needs. The other thing, a big one, is sleep deprivation. Y'all, sleep deprivation is a horrible form of abuse. It's a big thing of manipulation. You get someone and get them sleep deprived, and I'll tell you quite frankly, I actually got put in a hospital for sleep deprivation, not because somebody did it to me, but because I worked too dang on much. So anyway,
Well, that's a method that the military uses to get people to talk.
yeah, absolutely. And what I said, and I'm glad you said that, because another thing that I've said in order to try to explain what coercive control is, it is a form of psychological warfare, okay? Psychological trauma that has been used in the military. Why? Because it works.
It works, yeah.
That's right. So some of the other things are stalking and tracking the person. Put me on your. They want to see where you are at all times. How come it took you 20 minutes to get back from the store? It only should have taken you 15.
Yeah.
Put GPS on them and so forth. Monitoring communications, taking control of all aspects of their life, depriving of support services. Expressing worthlessness. That's a big one. Hey, honey, how do I look in this dress? That don't look too good on you. When you're looking really good in it, okay? Just chipping away is what I say. It's just a little bit at a time, just taking away a little bit at a time. And then over time, next thing you know, it's a whole lot. This is a form of humiliation, dehumanizing a person, degrading them. Those are things that happen in a coercive control. And trust me when I tell you, it's not just one of these things that happens in the home. Coercive control is a combination of all of these things. They happen in one shape, form, of a fashion. Putting you down as a mother, you're not a good mother, you're not a good father, whatever. Just always, you can never live up to the standard. Nothing is ever good enough. The script is always flipped, gaslighting and making you feel like that, gosh, am I crazy? What's going on here? I thought I was a worthy person. And, you get all of this from them. But there are other things that happen too. And I'm sorry, I know I'm going on and on and on, but there's threats to your children. Okay. I'm going to take the kids. You'll never see them again. Can I give y'all a news flash in South Carolina? If you're a stay-at-home mother and you're the one that takes care of the children, or if you're a stay-at-home father, okay, it drives me crazy. They go, the mom always gets the kid. No, they don't. The person that gets the kid or gets custody is the one that is the primary caretaker of the children throughout the marriage or throughout the relationship. Well, not throughout the relationship, throughout the marriage. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're the one that gets up at 2:30 a.m. to take care of a feverish child, if you're the one that misses work while the other one goes off and you stay at home and take care of the kid, it's the primary caretaker that gets custody. And I'm going to tell you what, if that's not like the biggest thing that would get most stay-at-home parents going, is to say that you're going to take the children from them. And that is a common tactic. Now, if you don't have children, the other thing is abuse to your pets, doing terrible things to your pets or that sort of a deal. But those are things that are constantly on. Even assaulting you constantly, in terms of like, when we hear assault, people always think assault and battery. Okay. And assault is putting the fear in someone, okay, that you're going to hurt them. All right. There doesn't have to land. And that's what an assault is, jumping at somebody or whatever. That's an assault. Usually what follows an assault is a battery. That's when you make contact with the person. Okay. So they usually do go together, but assault is a big thing that happens in coercive control. And so forth. But emotional abuse is primarily the thing. Psychological abuse, that's what it's all. Every one of those things I just told you, and I'm not going to go through. I'm just going to tell you how many I put on my list. It goes to, oh my goodness, there's way too many.
Well, let me tell you what I wrote about it.
Okay.
I have coercive control is a pattern of behavior that seeks to isolate, intimidate, manipulate, those are not good words.
No.
A person, often in a domestic context, and this form of abuse may not involve physical violence, although you said it can jump and convert to that.
Yes.
But it's emotional abuse, surveillance, threats, financial control, isolation of family and friends. I think we're pretty much spot on as far as what this means. I guess my question is, you may not know the answer to this, but I'm going to assume that the majority of coercive control comes from men projecting it onto women. Is that what you would agree with?
It is, and it's not that I need to agree with it. I've done the research. I've looked at the
Yeah, that's what
statistics,
I'm asking for. Sure, yeah.
and that's and it is. It's it is. It's like 8 out of 10 are women. Okay,
Listen,
so it does happen to men. I've seen some pretty bad things in that too. So,
well, my message to men is to knock it the hell off.
yeah, and if you don't, I'm coming after you for sure with the law. Hopefully.
Regina Ward, attorney Regina Ward will come after you and crawl up in it. And let me tell you, she's a good one.
I'm not. Hey, and don't come knocking on my door asking for representation, because you're gonna have some problems. But, I'm all for the protecting the victims here. So let me tell you something else about the importance of the law. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a thing that happens so much. It happens to and I'm sorry, I'm just going to keep saying women instead of people, because it is primarily women, but men, please understand that I know this happens to you too. But they're usually because the abuser has the purse strings. Okay, they take you off the bank account, they take away your credit card, or they give you a little allowance or whatever. You don't have the money to just pack the kids up and get out of there. And then especially for people who have been alienated and from support system with their family, friends, and things like that. So so whenever they need a way out is what I'm getting to. And people have heard me talk about this before. Whenever you live in a coercive control situation, and any one of these things that I just talked about may not in and of themselves rise to a level of abuse. Okay. Because I have people go, wait a minute, if I cut off my wife's credit cards, am I going to jail? Is that what you're trying to do? No, that's ridiculous. Okay. We're saying if you do all these other things, it's a totality of circumstances. And so when the police show up, and they say, he took my pocketbook, or he took my phone. I mean, that's a big one. He took my phone, so there's no communication, can't get the contacts or whatever. When the police show up, they don't have a law to look to whenever you're married in South Carolina. And keep in mind, I am a South Carolina attorney. I don't know about the laws in other states or how that works. So anytime I talk about how it works, I'm talking about South Carolina and South Carolina only.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I apologize. There's a lot of people on this live, and I want to just go reach out to them a little bit.
Okay,
if you have questions, go ahead and put them into the comments. Like and share this video, because when you do that, for the algorithm for TikTok, what it does is it sends it out to other people that this is important. So let's get as many people on here as we possibly can, because what you're talking about, what Attorney Ward is talking about, I believe, and I think everybody else here does, is very important, not only in trying to get a law passed, but just understanding what this is and how to cope with it, honestly, on a daily basis. And it's sad that this is not a law. This should be one of these things where people are like, yeah, sign me up. How do I do that? But, the world is a strange place, but there's a lot of people joining.
It is. I do want to answer some of those questions, but let me just say this, that I really want us to try to seriously, I want people to come together and get fired up and mad that we don't have this law already, and really get energized about it. And I've even said, let's give them a minute to try to get it up there. And I've said this a few times, give the legislator a minute to try to get it back up there, because this has been in the spotlight, right? And if they don't take it up, what I've said is I want to create a sea of purple around the Capitol. And what I mean by that is a rally with people coming and us wearing our DV shirts, our colors that represent.
Well, let me tell you, there are so many purple hearts in this little group right now. It's just purple, purple, purple hearts. So they're here supporting you.
Make me cry.
Yeah, there's just everybody's got the purple heart, so that's good to see. Good. Yeah, and everybody's really supportive of you. Yeah.
Good.
That's right. Justice for Mica is coming, they say. More Purple Hearts.
Oh,
Where they
right.
come.
And whenever we say justice for Mica, you know what, I want to also explain that too, because I had someone say this one time. Well, when you say justice for Mica, you're leaving out other you know, people living in that situation. And I'm like, no, 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 no. You know, there's two things going on. When we say that, it's not just justice for Mica. We're talking about justice for those who are living right this minute as we speak in this environment, okay?
Right.
With
Yeah.
no way to get out of it and no law to protect them or help them out of it. And so that's the other thing, is we really want it to be called Mica's Law. That's important to Mica's family. And when I say family, I'm talking about her sisters and her brother and, you know, her parents and stuff. So, and it's not that that's comments been made too. Why does it have to be called Mica's Law? What's it about Mica? Mica's life brought a bright, shining light to this problem. And so to me, it's like a household name. And so people know the story behind it. They know the allegations of the abuse that she shared and that I made this list about. And whenever you hear Mica's Law, it should go ding. I know exactly what that is. So that's what that's about.
But I don't know the answers, and so I'm generally asking this question because I don't know. Normally, I know the answers, but I don't. Is in South Carolina, can they name a law after someone? Is it possible to do that?
Right. So the way it actually works is it's not necessarily that it's named after a person. They will create the law. And I'm sorry, it escapes me right now. There's another law that I was thinking of a minute ago that is referred to something like that. And so at the end in the comment section, usually of the law, it'll say can be referred to as Mica's Law. So in the statute, you're not going to see section 168233 Mica's Law. It's going to say coercive control and then go through the elements of what that is. And then in the notes, it will say can be referred to as Mica's Law.
Yeah. So I want to spend a lot of time on this article. I've got a lot of information here about this. You know, I'm waiting for our Attorney General to kind of step up and support something like this. Maybe even our Congressman Nancy Mace down in Trump.
Mace. Yeah, my goodness. I was like, yes, I did a little video on my TikTok. I don't have big TikTok stuff. I'm starting to learn. But
by the way, tell us all your TikTok because I want to make sure that people have it.
Oh my goodness, I'm not even sure I know what it is. Just look up Attorney Regina Ward, but it's something funny. It was actually like a little personal thing I have, and now it's turned into my professional thing. But it was Goddess.
Does anybody? I'll ask people on the line.
9273. Goddess 9273. So
Goddess 9273.
Yeah, I wanted to change it over to something else, but it just kind of spun off. I'm sorry. It's like it sounds
9273.
And 9273 spells Ward, by the way. That's why my telephone number is 843-488 Ward, which is 9273.
Goddess GODDESS 9273.
Yes.
All right, it's up there now, so everybody can go follow you.
Oh, goodness.
Everybody go follow.
Not much there to follow at the moment, but
yeah, but you're going to put some stuff up. We talked to her about that. You know, I think you have a great message, not only in you know, in this particular arena, but your law firm, which is you do a lot. Like what other things do you do there in Myrtle Beach? Not to get away from this, but you know, just what do you?
Yeah. Well, I've practiced for this will be my 20th year, I think it is. And I have what's referred to as a general practice firm. And probably about 50% of my clients have been in the family court arena. And the other 50% has been a combination of criminal law and, you know, civil litigation, accidents, that kind of thing. So there's probably, you know, there's other things that I don't do that are sort of specialized, like workers' comp, Social Security, things like that. I don't do that, but litigation is my passion or has been. But I'm actually changing my business model, so I don't want people to get too upset about that. But I've stopped taking contested family court cases back in 23, the end of 23, for the purpose of going to a new business model that I've created.
Well, tell us about it. I'm excited to hear about it. What are you going to do?
Well, I'm working on a website right now, but and some people are going to go, "Oh, I can't believe she's saying this," but it has driven me crazy about how it's can be unaffordable to people to get a divorce. Okay, and there are some cases, like a case right now. It's my last trial. Hopefully, it's a 4-day trial. It's in family court, and it's contested custody case. Now, I've done this for many years, but I just had my 60th one birthday, and so I'm ready to kind of peel back a little bit. And I want to try to do something that's going to help a lot of people who don't have that, contested issues. They've already been separated for a year. Their children are either already grown or they didn't have any. There's no property to divide, no assets to divide. People go, wait a minute, does that even happen out there? Yes, it does. There are people that have been separated from their spouse for 5, 10, 15 years. I had a lady come in, they've been separated for 22 years. I'm like, why didn't you get a divorce? Because lawyers are too expensive. I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, I've developed a system in compliance with the really cool rule that we have now, where I can, my plan is to offer flat fee divorces. And the flat fee obviously has to do with uncontested matters, or cases where people, already have a settlement. And some people go, well, we don't have a settlement. Well, let me tell you something. If you've been separated for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, you got some kids together, but y'all actually cooperate and co-parent, then you already have an agreement. You've already set up your agreement by your actions. And so that just needs to be reduced to writing. Okay. And I've been working many years on collecting different, choices in terms of what can be a custody arrangement. Not a custody arrangement, a visitation or parental guide. And so I've come up with a way to be able to offer divorces at an affordable rate on 2 different places. And one is called a no court divorce. Believe it or not, that can happen if you meet the criteria. Call my office and take the test, and we'll see if you meet it. And if you do, you don't have to go to court to get divorced. And you can also get your name changed if you need a name change.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who's going through a divorce in North Carolina. I wanted to say that he told me the last time his bill was like, I don't know, 300,000 or something crazy like that.
That must be in New York, where they charge 600 or 700, 800 an hour.
Oh no, it's been going on forever, and his wife's attorney is putting out a motion every other day.
But yeah. It is ridiculous. And divorce in and of itself, and especially when you have children, is hard enough. The breakup of a family, let's just say, even if it's somebody we just can't wait to be divorced from or whatever, at the end of the day, it means the end of a marriage. And that's the end of the fairy tale that you started out with, right? We all want that fairy tale ending. And
somebody says here, bring it to Alabama. Can your new website, can you do it in any state, or is it just South Carolina?
Yeah. Well, right now, because I'm only licensed in South Carolina, I can only offer this for the entire state of South Carolina. But hold on. My plan is to go forward. We've been doing the research on the other states that this can possibly work for. Yeah. And so my goal is to start here in South Carolina, where I know the lay of the land, so to speak, and then move from state to state, hopefully after that, with attorneys who are actually licensed in those states. And so that is a goal of mine. And as far, I'd have to go find my cheat sheet to see if, what was it, Alabama? I'm not sure if they're on that or not.
Somebody said Alabama. Somebody also said I have your name wrong. So it's not GODDESS 9273, or is that what it is?
I have no idea. I thought it is. It is Goddess 9273, I thought. What did they say it's supposed to be?
I don't know. I asked. I said, "What is it?" And they nobody said. I'll change it to whatever it is.
I'm sorry that I don't know for sure. It could be.
I tried looking up Regina Ward, but there's already a Regina Ward.
Yeah. Well, you have to say attorney Regina Ward. I paid a lot of money to get that.
You did?
Yeah. Still paying on that bill, by the way.
Let me look. So you had finish. Tell us what you're talking about with this, and what's your timeline?
So right now, I have a company that has been working on a website. I'm not going to put the domain name out there, but I have another domain name that I'm going to use. That's because it's not up. If I give it to you, you're going to go, it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. It's not ready. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to launch probably sometime in April. We should be ready for that. But I have to say this right now, I can do it anyway. There's 5 questions. Okay. If you can answer yes, this is a little thing that came up the other day. I'm going to see if anybody likes it or not. If you can answer yes to these 5 questions, it could save you $5,000. I had a lady the other day, that called in and she qualified for this type of divorce. And when I told her my price, she said, what did you say? And I said, it's, I guess I could put it out there, but I won't right now. But anyway, when I told it to her, she goes, I've called like several lawyers and every one of them was like about $5,000. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Somebody's charging you $5,000 for this. That's not fair. It kind of makes me upset. So anyway, she was just thrilled. I said, well, that's great. I said, you're going to be one of my first to give me some reviews, okay, on my new business venture. Nice. And
well, keep us up to date on that. That sounds like it's something that's unique that no one's really doing out there.
It is. And I don't want to say that it's truly unique. It's just that what's happening is most lawyers, I think we all take a little bit of uncontested and a lot of contested because the contested, like you said, they bring in, that pays all my ladies in the house, all of my staff and so forth. But I'm at a different place in my life. And this is just something that I've wanted to offer for a long time. I've been working on it for a long time because I want to have all the processes and templates and things in place. And that's what makes it affordable. I don't have to create something new for each individual client, which I've had to do all over the years. Right. So is it the, well, I was going to say what the 5 questions were, if anybody wants to know what those are.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, let's see if I can remember them off the top of my head. I didn't bring in my cheat sheet. Okay, so the first one is either you or your spouse needs to be living in South Carolina. Okay, and not both of you don't have to live here, at least one of you. Okay, and then if that doesn't fit, and this is not part of this, is a sub question we would get to if you called in and asked, but if one of you does not live in South Carolina, you both must have at least lived together as husband and wife in South Carolina. So one of those things. So that covers the jurisdiction, depending, says that jurisdiction, all that is a fancy word for state, what state you can file it in. So if one of you lives in South Carolina, the other thing is you've already been separated for a minimum of 1 year, no cohabitation, no marital intimacy, okay, for a year or more is the second thing. The third one is that there's no minor children, okay? All your children need to be, I say 19 because it covers another area. They really need to be 18 or older or graduated from high school.
So you don't have any
no minor children. Okay. Yeah. They're either adult or you don't have any.
Yeah, we're not dealing with who's going to take the kids, right?
Yeah, that we don't have to fight over, custody and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is that any assets or debts that are associated with the marriage have already been divided. So if you bought a house together and you've already sold it and split your money, or whatever you did, paid off your debt, or you assumed yours and they've assumed theirs, whatever. If that's already happened, then there's no assets or debts to deal with. And then the last thing is you can't be seeking any spousal support. So if you can answer yes to those 5 questions, then you can call my office. And after answering those 5 questions, then we have to go into a little bit more detail beyond that. But I'm calling that basically referring to it as a free divorce application. Okay. So No consultation fee. You can call in and talk to my receptionist, and she'll go through the questionnaire with you. And if you fit that, then you go to the next place. If you don't fit that, then we'll figure out if you fit in something else. Okay. But I'll just tell you right now, Regina Ward does not take any contested family court cases anymore. Okay. So if you say, I need to get this from him or her, or we need to fight over this, wrong place. You should have been here 15 years ago. Okay. That ship has sailed.
So I'm going to transition here a little bit because last week, actually 2 weeks ago, I originally got back into this case between Mica Francis and Mr. Miller.
Yes.
It's been a wild couple of weeks. Let me just tell you.
Yeah, you should have been here from the beginning.
Well, you know what? I did do a story on this in the beginning, and honestly, it blew up like fire, and it just spread. And there was everybody and their brother and People Magazine, and it was so much noise. I was like, ah. And at that time, I was going through some cancer treatments. I was doing another Murdaugh book. Like my plate was
things
full.
happen in the world. I was just kind of poking at you a little bit.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
It's
that's why I didn't get into it.
A lot of layers to this case. Every day there's something new.
Yeah, and I had printed.
Mr. Miller is the gift that keeps on giving with
John Paul Miller.
Yeah, and that makes me so mad. Let me tell you what, to have his name in everybody's mouth. Can y'all take his name out of your mouth and let's talk about what's really important? And that's people who are still living in coercive control. Put your representatives' names in your mouth and yell them out and ask them why. Why? Okay.
I'm going to mention one name to you. You just tell me, shake your head no, or okay, let's just go to it. You ready? All right. Because this was a big deal last week. It was called, this person was called Melissa Mancari.
Go ahead.
Okay. And she made some very strong accusations, not only to Mr. Miller, but to you as well. And I won't spend the time on Miller's accusations because he's not here. But she made some very hard accusations about
I
you.
think she called me corrupt, crooked, and connected.
Okay. And you and I spoke after that. In fact, you got in contact with me, I think, through TikTok maybe, and we got together on the phone. And we did a little interview over the phone, and you had said some things like the truth is coming.
That's right, it is.
Yep. And I had talked a little about coercive control, but you were not very happy with what she had said, that it's false to the core.
It is false to the core.
And that she was desperate to be an important piece of this case, which I have seen before in other cases. It does happen.
Yes.
Somebody who really wants to be part of the case, they just throw themselves into it, and now they're in it. Now we're sitting here on TikTok 2 weeks later talking about it. About, she said, Mancari said the FBI calling her to ask for info, but never produced a phone number, et cetera, et cetera.
That's right.
So, I mean, you had mentioned before, maybe you had some proof. Yeah. Every attorney loves proof.
That's right. Okay.
And so all these accusations he's making against you, you have said in many different times, and we've gone through different things, and it's very unbelievably believable on your end that what she's doing is just trying to interject herself here.
That's right. So I'll put it this way. I do have the proof of her, people say her misrepresentations. Let's just call it a lie because that's what it is. Okay. She has made a lot of statements that are very untrue. And it kind of goes back to back in September of last year. She had taken a document that she was not supposed to take from the law firm. Mr. Miller had called in for a consultation at the firm that she worked for. Now, across that document, it said, referred by Regina Ward. Okay, let me straighten that out, okay? I didn't talk to John Paul Miller. I didn't refer him to anything. Here's how it works. Remember what I said earlier, that I stopped taking contested cases like in November of 23. Okay, well, he called sometime after that. And anybody who calls my office, check it out, call tomorrow. Pretend like you have a contested case. And they will say, what kind of case do you have? And then as soon as you say, oh, I need to fight about everything, my staff is going to read off a name of lawyers that I, Regina Ward, personally refer cases to. I don't refer people out to everybody. Okay. Now, you don't have to take my referrals. You can go wherever you want to. But most times people say, I called your office. Where would you send me? And so I have names for every kind of practice area that somebody calls in and may need it. I can't take. So evidently, unbeknownst to me, Mr. Miller must have called my office. Okay. And he got the standard, call this one, or this one. Okay?
Yeah. That in itself is kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, so he I could tell you something else that's really funny. But anyway, so he got the list, right?
Yeah.
And he I don't know if he called all of them, called one of them or whatever, but he called this one that Carey worked at. Okay. And she was the paralegal. Okay. That answered the phone. And her allegation was that Mr. Miller called in. And let me just tell you, there's no proof that this happened. This is her saying it. This part I don't have any proof, and neither does she. Okay. That Mr. Miller called in and said that he had consulted with some attorney and didn't think they were aggressive enough, and that he was looking for a shark, and was that lawyer a shark, etc. And then she made this statement that Mr. Miller said that he needed a lawyer that was going to destroy his wife. Well, that's not a usual thing for people to say. Okay. Now, I don't know that he said that. Obviously, I wasn't there. Miss Carey claims he says that. It's not written on any of the paperwork that's been produced. But anyway, she says he said that. Now, let's pretend that it is true, okay, that we can prove that he said that. If that were the case at the time, that would have been very critical information that should have been kept quiet, silent, okay?
Yeah.
And so she decided to put it out in the world that he said that. Well, that's a problem. Who wants to call a law firm that the paralegal goes out there and blabs what you told them in confidence? That's ridiculous. Okay.
By the way, if you need a good paralegal, I know one who's graduating from Auburn University here shortly. She lives down in Florida. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. She says that she's trying to get jobs down there as a paralegal, and they don't. I don't know. For some reason, down in that northern part of Florida, you graduate with a degree from Auburn University as a paralegal, and I'm not sure what that degree is, but
well, tell her to come on up here. Do you know how many calls I get from lawyers going, do you know any good paralegals? I'm like, boy, those are hard to come by.
No. Oh, yeah.
So there's two things I always say. If you're looking for a career, okay, court reporters in South Carolina, we have a shortage, and we need some paralegals. I know you're going to have to find this hard to believe. And honestly, it's been a little while since I looked at it. But at one point in time, there were statistics that showed that the everybody's going to go, I don't think that's true. It's true. There's not enough lawyers in this area.
That's not true.
Okay.
That's not true.
This area. So especially in family court, because there's a lot of lawyers that don't have the courage to come do this. Okay. And then there are other lawyers that think that, it's simple. We deal with millions of dollars of property and division and all kinds of stuff. The only thing that's easier about family court, if there's anything easier about it, is our law doesn't change every 20 seconds like it does in tax law, okay, or in criminal law.
Yeah.
The laws have been set, and they don't change that often. When they do, they make, we know about them.
We need more lawyers. I'm still laughing at that one.
But there's a shortage of family court attorneys. I'm not kidding. We need family court attorneys. We need paralegals. And I'm talking about Horry County. I don't know about everywhere else. But here in Horry County, we need paralegals. We need family court attorneys. We need attorneys that will serve as guardian ad litem. We need more mediators. Horry County, and by the way, did you notice how I said that? It's not Horry County, it's Horry County. Okay, the H is silent, so get it right. Even though Myrtle Beach might be Horry County, but anyway, there's a shortage. We don't have enough. Like if every lawyer that practices family court in Horry County, okay,
Yeah.
they will tell you they are, even the bad ones are full. Okay, they're, and I don't mean like bad lawyers. I just mean lawyers who may not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what you mean.
Anyway, man, Carrie, don't get on that one. So what I mean is that not all are created equal. You know, some have less experience, some have more experience. Some
I understand. Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, we need more. I'm not
So-
kidding. It sounds terrible, but we do.
So, Mancari, just stop with what you're doing. Go off into some other. Go check out what Alex Murdaugh's doing. Maybe
Yeah, and I need to finish up with her. Okay, let me tell you.
he needs a pen pal. Yeah.
Whenever the things that Mancari said happened did not happen except for one thing, and that was Regina Ward had a conversation with her. That part's true. What she said happened during that conversation is not true. Okay. And it just so happened as a lawyer, I thought that I was walking into something, okay, that may have some problems to it when I went to help my friend, former associate, in a situation. Okay.
People love you here, Regina. I'm just telling you. Sorry to interrupt. We appreciate you, Regina.
Aww.
Amen, Miss Ward. All the
Thank
Purple
you.
Hearts. They love you.
I love them too. That's touching my heart.
Yeah.
So anyway, I have the recorded audio of that interview. So I'll be dropping little pieces of that. What I'd like to do is take the things that she said recently and let's just kind of compare them to the things she said back in September.
Well,
okay?
she better stop selling lies, and if you got recordings of her.
I got so much stuff, you know. I'm a lawyer. What do I think about proof? Okay. And there's always a concern in this case, like that, you know, the case, you know, started in April and then we lost our beautiful Mica. And then there's, you know, oh, and that's another thing. I know, I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. Another thing that people talk about is like why the family settled. I had put together some video a while back that explains that there is a legal, very good, many legal reasons why that happened. Okay. So it really made me angry when people said that the family sold out Mica. That is simply not true. And whenever you get to hear the backside in terms of not the confidential parts of it, you're not going to hear that. But what you will hear is my analysis of why that needed to happen and why it did ultimately happen. And so maybe that'll be part of my TikTok in the future when I get past my last 4-day trial.
Yes. I'm telling you, people will love you. You're a great speaker, wonderful person to look at. You're super smart, and you've got a lot to tell them. I mean, you got a lot of knowledge. So yeah, spread that knowledge.
Yeah. So what other kind of questions you got in there?
Well, there's a lot of Purple Hearts here. Thank you, Miss Ward, for fighting for Mica and all victims. Regina,
I need my Mica warriors to step up, though. I need you getting these letters out. I need you writing a letter at least once a month, once every other week, once a week. I don't care. A lot. You know, if we take 10 people or 50 people who write 5, I can't do the math right now. What's 5 times 12? But if we have 50 people writing a letter, or 100 people writing 1 letter a month, okay, that's 100 letters a month. We have 1,200 by the end of the year, and eventually they'll get sick of us. Oh, please ask me about the letters I sent. Please ask me the question.
Somebody says here, Regina just says none of it was true, but the call. Anyone who endorsed Mancari is going to look bad.
Well, I'm not going to say that they've endorsed her. What happens is
that's what somebody
was convincing. Okay. And that's a thing that drives me crazy. People take things out of context, okay, and they run with this thing so they can sensationalize stuff. The dumbest thing happened, in my opinion, and it happened to me, okay? Well, first of all, let me back up. You call me corrupt, crooked, and connected. don't think I'm not going to fight back. Let me tell you something. I was not born with a golden spoon in my mouth. I don't come from a long line of attorneys. Okay. I don't have any judges in my family. I mean, I lived in a mobile home park when I was a kid. My mother was a single mom of 3 children. She had an 8th grade education. None of my grandparents graduated from high school. None of my uncles none of them graduated from high school. I think
You're the American dream.
I was so proud when I graduated from high school. My whole family was like, they all showed up with both teeth up front and said, "We're proud of you." But anyway, you know why part of that is because I had the right teachers in my life that saw something and that inspired me. And I also knew somewhere it clicked in me. I was like I grew up in poverty.
Did you grow up in Oric County?
I was born in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Rock Hill, the thrill.
That's it. Viva Rock Hill, baby.
The
I was
thrill.
born there. Then, my mother had this thing that if her life was not going well, it was the town she lived in. So we moved a lot. Might as well call me a military brat, but we weren't in the military. My mom, she had some problems. Okay.
Yeah.
So we moved a lot, and I can't, one of the things I'm really jealous of people who've got to grow up in one neighborhood their whole life. Other people go, "Oh my God, I live in the same place her life." Do you know what? That sounds like a dream to me. I would love to be able to go back to the neighborhood I grew up in and go, "Oh, I remember we used to go there and we used to climb that tree and we used to do all this." But I lived all over the place. Okay. We just moved everywhere. But I did spend a lot of time in North Myrtle Beach, different times over my life. So Cherry Grove was kind of like my home, I guess you would say. For a while. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is that, listen, teachers make a difference in life. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I also knew that I wanted to escape poverty. I wanted to help my family, my sisters. I wanted to buy my mom a house, that kind of stuff. And it clicked to me one day. I said, well, how do we get out of this? Well, hard work, Grandpa said. I was like, well, Grandpa, you work hard your whole life. You're still looking like you ain't out of poverty yet. So I realized when I looked around that it was education. Okay. Yeah. You get the people finish high school. And if you didn't finish high school, go get your GED. You're never too old to do that. And then go to the next thing. Go people who didn't take advantage of free schooling at the tech when they were giving it out after COVID or whatever it was. But anyway, education is key. Being a good influence and recognizing things in people and encouraging them.
I will put this out there. You don't have to go to college either.
No.
There is a shortage of plumbers and electricians in this country
100%.
that they make a tremendous amount of money. And I mean, just try calling to get a plumber today.
Yeah, and 100%. And I didn't mean like it. I know you did. I was talking about high school.
Yeah, no, I knew what you were saying.
Go to the next level, wherever.
Yeah, but whatever it is, go to college, go to trade school, do something.
I tell you what, go be a roofer. Let me tell y'all, I get to see a lot of personal financial stuff over the years of people, and that's confidential. But let me just tell you that I have learned that if you're in the construction industry, but if you just want to do one little special thing like roofing or something, my goodness, they make a lot of money. I tell you, somebody else who makes a lot of money. I couldn't believe it. Pet sitting, not pet sitting, but pet doggy daycares or something.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. And you don't have to go get more education. Okay. You can educate yourself too. I want to make that clear. That you can educate yourself online yourself. And if you want to go start a business, we all see that, we have all these online, but I'll tell you what, young people today are amazing to me. I see other people go, "Oh, I can't stand these millennials. They don't know what hard work is." My God, I wish I knew what they knew back when I was their age, because I would have mailbox money by the time I was 22 as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, listen, I told you before, I was in the corporate world, but I'm starting this whole journey as a journalist. Some people don't want to call me a journalist, but I told you, I said I'm almost on my 500th story, coming up on that. I've written 2 books.
That's pretty amazing.
I'm a radio host at 97.7 down in Cottageville, South Carolina. We do true crime in the Low Country down there
My goodness.
with Red Brick Patriot Radio. Yeah, I've got the TikTok thing. I've got YouTube and working on my third book. There's a guy that just pardoned by Donald Trump, and he wants to tell his story. It was Jay Sixer who was just pardoned. So it's the American dream. Just you can reinvent yourself anytime you want to, and it sounds like you reinvented your family and your name and everything else. So you're the American dream. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something else. I graduated from law school when I was 40, so it's never too late to start.
Yeah.
And I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 10 years, which was a wonderful thing.
Where'd you go to law school?
Before I went to law school, yeah.
No, where'd you go to law school?
Oh, where did I go to law school? I went to Lansing, Michigan. It was a school called Thomas Schooley School of Law. It's a terrible school, like at the lower tier. But let me tell you that. I didn't give a rip. I knew I was
it doesn't matter.
going to be out on my own, you know.
Yeah,
but
you're
it's changed names a few times, and I think they're about to put them out of business, but I don't care.
Listen, you're here, right? And
That's
you're
right.
you're doing fantastic work. Now, I think what everybody wants to also know is, there was a big day yesterday.
Woohoo!
I sat in that courtroom and the judge says, "Listen, there's too many people here. We're going to sequester some of the witnesses." Right?
So no, you didn't get that right.
I didn't. Okay.
No, the judge didn't make the suggestion for the sequestering of witnesses. What the judge did is they had so many people out in the halls before they go into the courtroom. They said, first we want litigants, i.e. the parties, and the witnesses for each of them to be put in the courtroom first. So instead of us all going, oh, excuse me, okay.
They stuck us in.
They said, if you're not a litigant or a witness, then go get in the other courtroom number 2, okay. Yeah. And so that way they could get all of the parties to those restraining orders, Mr. Miller, and the I don't want to use the words defendants, but anyway, the respondents, the petitioner and the respondent. Okay. So they got them got all of those into that courtroom first.
And then they sequestered them, and the witnesses are going into the jury room, I think it was, or a jury room or some other room. And I had received an email from Mr. Miller 2 days prior with a demand. I think it was.
Woo!
It wasn't a subpoena. I had said subpoena on the live, and I was wrong. It wasn't a subpoena. It was a demand to appear. And I was like, okay. Well, I was going anyway, but it was a demand to appear. Apparently, I wrote an article the week before and described what I saw on the, what do we call them? Not protesters, but sorry.
Demonstrators.
The demonstrators. I wrote about what I saw in the demonstrators and what I saw in church, and that was it. And so he thought, well, go into court and tell him what you saw. Mm-hmm. The problem was I stood up, and all of a sudden the bailiff walks by and he's like, "Wait a minute, you're media." I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, "Well, you can't go back in there." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." He's like, "We got a problem." I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
We came to your rescue.
Yeah, and I was like, look at the turn. My eyes were like burning into the back of your head. Hopefully,
I whip around and I said, "There is no legal subpoena here." And
I was like, "Hell!" And so we walked up and talked to the magistrate judge and showed him the document and. I was like,
there's no subpoenas. Like, there's a subpoena. I'm like, there's only 2 people. Actually, there's 3 people who can issue a subpoena. That's a lawyer, which he's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the judge, which he didn't, or the clerk of court, and she didn't either. So.
Well, I mean, it looked official to me, but I was going anyway. So, and I told the judge, I'm like, I don't want to testify. And he's like, "Well, you're on the list." I'm like, okay. So. He said, "Well, how about you just go first?" And I was like, "Okay." But then, there's got to be a foundation for what he was suing for. And I think he was or suing for, it was December 22nd, December 29th, and January 5th. And I was never in those anywhere near those until February 16th. So it didn't really matter. And then he asked me if I saw anything online. And, I'm thinking,
what in the world?
I've never seen these three people until I walked in here today. And if I did, I wouldn't recognize them anyways. I was like,
Yeah.
no. And he's like, okay, I'm done with this guy. So I was like, I didn't want to be there anyway, but I didn't really have much to say.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. I could only assume what was going. I think he was like, "Oh, never mind. Go ahead. You can go now."
I was up there for maybe 2 minutes, I think,
Yeah.
if that. And then you had, I don't know if you want to talk about this. You don't have to say because I know it was confidential
Mhm.
agreement. But you had one of your clients went first.
Yes. So the you weren't here for the other one, but I did a restraining order hearing with Mr. Miller the prior week. And of course, we won. Then, whenever we got ready to go to this one, the client that I had for that one, there was oh, I need to fix something too. There was something I saw somewhere where somebody said it was nobody could say her name because it's sealed or something. That is not true. Okay. The only thing that was sealed was the written document that we put together.
Yeah, I mentioned when I did a report on it. I mentioned her first name. It said it was a confidential agreement, and that there was a settlement agreement, and that Mr. Miller dropped the case, and the judge agreed. That's all I said.
Yeah.
And
So
people are like, "It was sealed." I'm like, "There's nothing sealed." I was sitting in there, and there was no gag order. I can't,
yeah. Well, Mr. Miller's, the case before this one, his first motion was to have me removed as the attorney for my client. That was the
Can,
one before.
can
Not,
you can you make that motion? I don't even know that you can do that.
you can make a motion. The question is, can you win it? And I was like, what? What in the world? And then I was like, what? And it was like,
All right.
and I'm paraphrasing. It was funny as heck because he was like, well, she's represented everybody against me. And I just don't want her on any of them. I'm like, well, that's not a reason to get me removed. But anyway,
That's not how the law works.
so the one, so the one yesterday, there was something that was very, very super, super, super important to my client. And so I saw it as an opportunity to get that for her. And
Yeah.
so that's what some people they go, oh, it's a settlement agreement. Well, the agreement was for Mr. Miller to dismiss that restraining order, which was critically important. People need to understand if you get a restraining order granted against you, then they get to walk around going, I have a restraining order. And then when you walk into Walmart and there they are, they're like, oh, get out of here. You got a restraining order. That whenever you just don't want that happening. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So for that
Listen,
particular
people,
case,
yeah.
My client was, it was when she shared that with me, I was like, oh goodness, I go, let me get to work on this because in the petition for a restraining order, and that's what it is a petitioner and a respondent, because it's not a lawsuit. Lawsuits you think of in terms of you're going to sue somebody for damages or for something like that. So anyway, you don't necessarily have an answer and counterclaim in a petition for a restraining order. It's just the defense, and there's no discovery available in that situation. Period.
And then after your case was dismissed,
Yeah.
there was the three respondents that were remaining
Yes.
that Mr. Miller was trying to get a restraining order against.
Yeah.
And there was a slew of witnesses called.
Yeah.
Um,
Which all got chopped down.
You know what? It's a good question for you because I kind of scratched my head. I was like, why didn't he call any of the respondents up as witnesses?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Well, that's kind of unusual. And plus, he wouldn't. I mean, he is seeking to get a restraining order against.
Could he have?
So they would have been. Could he have called him? Yes. But they would have been what we call an adverse witness. Now, here's the thing. This actually happened in a case I had one time. It's not a restraining order case, but this inexperienced baby lawyer who we went, I think that one was a 3-day case. And I tried to mentor, which I actually am a certified mentor. But anyway, I tried to mentor and not squash them like a bug, like I can a lot of times, And so, so we get there. The first thing she did, I was just like, bless her heart, as we say in the South. She didn't have anybody helping her. And I think it might have been her first case. She called my client as the first witness. And the judge looked at her and said, as gently as she could, are you sure that's what you want to do? And I looked at her and I said, yeah, you sure that's what you want to do? And she's like, yes, ma'am. I want to call, him first. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay. So here's how the rules work. When you call my client, it's not your witness. Okay. And so now they're adverse. Okay. But whenever you call somebody as a witness and put them on the stand, you have to do what's called direct examination. There are specific rules on how you ask the questions to a witness that you place on the stand. So she got up there and she tried to cross-examine my client. The rules don't provide that. So I'm jumping up going, objection, objection, objection. And the judge, she goes, I warned you. She said, you can't lead the witness. You called them. You have to answer or ask them questions on direct. And so, to kind of understand the difference between those, I always tell people is this. A leading question has the answer in it. Okay. So isn't it true you were at the mini mart on February the 10th at 6 p.m.? Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus where were you on February the 6th at 10?
JP was asking a lot of leading questions. He was also asking a lot of questions that didn't have a basis for foundation in so many of them. There was a lot of foundation, a lot of objections.
Well, go ahead.
Which was basically the 3 dates that he had put down.
Oh, yeah. So, one of the things he wanted to do, didn't you? And I was just sitting there, y'all, I promise you, I was just biting at the bit. And their attorney did a fine job. He got the result that he needed to. But because I just had this, I don't know what it's called, but I just know the case inside and out. I know all the players. I know the backstory. I know the fake story. I know the whatever, and the dream story that's hopefully coming one day. But anyway, I'm sitting there, and because I know a little bit more about certain witnesses that were up there and certain scenarios. And by the way, I was a protester too. So not every Sunday, but I'm the one that made that gigantic banner. The paralegal I had at the time, she's like, you want to get a banner? I said, heck yeah, I get 2 of them. Okay. So, but anyway, he had basically, whenever you cite your petition, you have to say the dates that these things happened. And so he kept wanting to say, did you see the protesters out there? Did you see them all out there? I'm like, well, yeah, I saw all the protesters. And I'm sitting there going, ask the question. Did you see that one? And it was every time it was like, well, no, I saw all the protesters, but I don't remember seeing that one, and not on that date or whatever.
I will say this. I know you had left after your case, but he did get better throughout the day as far as his questioning. He learned. The judge was kind of helping him along the way, and honestly, the defense attorney was helping him along the way. But
more than I would have. That's why JP don't want Mr. Miller doesn't want me up there. He says, boy, I know too much.
Yeah. So those 3 cases got dismissed, right?
Yeah,
so,
4 cases dismissed. And I brought him. I have a little table.
And he said that he's going to refile until.
And I'll have another seminar. So I had offered a free seminar on how to represent yourself in magistrate court. Because like I said, y'all, it was more than 33 cases. There are others that are not on the public index. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was like, there's no way I can help, even though I want to so much. I want to help every single person. I'm like, I can't do that. This is but I offered a seminar, free seminar. Of course, you had to bring something for the DV shelter, which I always say, which we haven't had in almost, over a decade.
But you got a really nice animal shelter.
That's coming. We haven't. Can I please tell that story?
Hold on. Tell your first story. I only said that because the guy. Tell your story here first.
What was I talking about?
I don't know.
Ask the people. Give me a comment. What was the last thing I said so I can finish my story? Then I went. He's gonna file all these extra.
Yeah, you were given a seminar.
So anyway, I had before said this is what I'll do. I will give a free seminar And the name of it is How to Represent Yourself in Magistrate Court. Okay. And I can give you tips, tools, how to maneuver in a courtroom, things to look for. And so I'd offered that for people who either couldn't afford an attorney or whatever, or they just want to represent themselves or whatever. So if he's going to file another 30 lawsuits, then I'm probably going to have 2 or 3 more of those seminars. So
Yeah, good. I'm trying to look at some comments here. And then I guess the big one, kind of, let's see, restraining orders are private. Just looking through some comments.
Yeah, restraining orders are not published on the public index, and there's a very good reason for that. So whenever something is published on the public index, okay, it's there for all eternity, people. You can't get it off. So now it's different with criminal cases. Once they get, disposed of, depending on what it is, it may get removed from the. I don't know. For instance, if you get arrested with a DUI and it gets, dismissed, then it'll come off of the public index. But that doesn't happen in civil cases. And so, like with restraining orders, the last thing you need is for there to be somebody to say, I saw on the public index there were 7 restraining orders filed against you. Well, it doesn't say if they want them or not. You don't need that kind of stuff out there. That could be abused by a coercive control manipulator.
That is good. Somebody else asked the question: Can he be charged with frivolous lawsuits if he files again?
Okay, so that's a really good question. First of all, when we use the word charge, that usually has to do with a crime. Okay, and the only way that anybody get charged with the crime is there has to be, either police officer has to witness the crime and then they can arrest the person, or the police officer has to take evidence to the magistrate who would issue a warrant for that person's arrest, assuming there's probable cause. So it wouldn't be a charge. What it would be is, can someone file a suit against him for frivolous filings? And absolutely yes, and I have done that.
Yeah. All right. There seems to be some fighting going on here between some people. Stop fighting, people.
I'm glad you said that. I want to bring that up too, because I've been noticing this too, that there have been these attacks among different social media, personalities, reporters, cyber sleuths, and things like that.
Like me?
Yes. And I have to say this, it's killing me because, listen, the focus is getting lost in this nonsense. We are adults. We are not in school. Okay. Stop attacking each other, please. You cannot, be a voice against violence whenever you're being part of it. And they've heard me say this before. Please stop calling each other names. I mean, it's just silly. It's, everybody, guess what? Do y'all know? Hey, pay attention. I just thought of something. Anybody who was there, and even if you were not there, the reason Mr. Miller did not win his restraining orders ultimately is because the First Amendment right of freedom of speech. Right. We love America because we get to say our opinion. Doesn't mean everybody's going to agree with your opinion, okay? Please stop attacking each other, and please attack your representatives as you would someone that's just your competition order. Attack them, okay? Send them letters, call them, barrage them, whatever. Please stop attacking each other. We need to come together as a people to help those who are living right this minute.
Yes.
In a coercive control situation. While everybody's out there squabbling and calling each other names, we've got these people over here going, please, can someone help me get out of this situation?
Yeah, there's people that are still alive today that are in the same situation that Mica Francis was in, that needs to get out, and they need help, and they need the law to help them.
Yes. And and people go, well, how's the law going to help them? I'll tell you how it's going to help them once we get it passed, is the police officer will be trained and to recognize this thing because it's a law, and they have to know, officers have to know the law so they can figure out if you broke it or not. Okay. Is the officers will be trained, and when they show up at the house, because he won't give you your wallet back, or she won't give you your whatever back, your phone or something, but then the officer will be trained to ask very specific questions that alert, because, when your abuser's standing there behind you, okay, It's kind of hard. So uh, the law can, what I call, kick the door open to get you out of that situation. Why? Because if coercive control law is passed, then whenever those totality of all of those different scenarios I was telling you about earlier, cutting off the, finances, taking the cars and doing the phone and all this kind of stuff that they do, the officer will recognize that stuff. Now, I'll tell you, as criminal defense attorney, they probably wouldn't be able to arrest on site, but what would happen in some situations maybe, but what would happen is, I imagine it is, it would be, because I want it to be a felony, a big one with a lot of time to it, okay, is that you have to go before a magistrate and say, hey, judge, I think this crime is happening, and here's what I have to prove it. And that's called probable cause. And when you have enough probable cause, then the judge can sign a warrant and they come and take away, hey, that person. And whenever they're taken away, then that means the victim is left without that person in the household. And there's usually going to be a condition of bond, which, if I have it my way, will be a mandatory GPS ankle monitor on that person. And there's obviously always a no contact order that's usually part of the condition of a bond. That is a start. That's kicking the door open. Okay.
Hey, Regina, can I give you a little hint of what you should do next?
Okay.
You need to run for political office.
Oh my God. No, you can't get anything done as a politician.
You know the law. You know what the law is. You're a great speaker. You need to run for Senate.
You're very kind. That is very kind of you. But I'm just checking my notes here. It looks like I want to cut back on work.
I know. Well, listen, do politicians really work? I mean, come on.
No, it's true. Whenever, it's funny you say that, because when I was a political science major, okay, and so I had an interest in that. And
at the University of South Carolina in Conway, South Carolina, now called Coastal Carolina.
Go Cox and
go Chanticleer. Chanticleer.
Yeah. But anyway, I found out very early on that it's very difficult to be effective in politics, because what happens is kind of like what's happening a little bit around now. And that is that people start, you can't please everybody all the time. And somebody's always going to try to, whatever. I don't know. I just feel like I'm more effective right here. I'm more effective carrying my banner down around the Capitol, that kind of stuff.
But if you ever get into it, I think you'd be really good at it.
Very that's a nice compliment. Thank you very much.
Lucy's mom says Senator, in quotes, Rankin needs to blow the dust off and do something in caps.
She heard my press conference. Thank you. That was Susie, you said?
That was I just lost it. Where'd it go? Oh, Lucy's mom, it says. That's her name. Senator Rankin needs to blow the dust off and do something.
He does. And and I know that person was either present at the press conference, or they saw it, online or somewhere. And that was one of the things I said, is that I felt like what they did is they let that bill come and they put it in a box and put it in the back corner of some closet that's covered in dust. And I want them to go to the back of that closet and pull it out. This classic example. Pull it out, knock the dust off of it, and let it get done. Everybody's like, well, it's hard. It's not even there anymore. Why does she say that? And I'm like, it's called an analogy, okay? I know once it dies in committee, it's not there anymore. And Mr. I guess I'm supposed to say Senator Rankin.
Senator Rankin.
Yeah, he cried like a little baby.
That's my best Southern accent. Senator Rankin.
He cried like a little baby on Facebook and said, there's no bill pending in the General Assembly. And I was like, yeah, we know. That's what we're talking about here. We would like for it to get to be brought back up. Somebody pick it up and bring it up. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to tell. At that same press conference, okay, I brought these, hold on. I don't have one close enough to grab. Anyway, I had these big purple envelopes, that were that I had put my letters into Senator Rankin, head of the Judiciary Committee, and all the representatives, everyone on the Judiciary Committee, and the other legislators. Okay, there were big purple envelope. Okay,
the purple envelope. It's got to be the purple
envelope and big. Okay, so when the letters went, and at the press conference, I said, "All right, putting y'all on notice. Purple envelopes are going out today, and so be looking for them." Right, so. I mean, it wasn't a small press conference. It wasn't a teeny tiny story. I mean, This was a big story, right?
Yeah.
I'll ask everybody, how many representatives responded to my purple letters?
I don't know, but I got somebody here who says Regina for governor.
I'll take that job.
Governor Regina.
Yeah. So the answer.
How many?
The answer is
0.
That's it.
Lucy's mom says 0.
I had 0 response, but I do have to say this.
Lucy's mom was on top of this.
There was one, okay, that did call as a result of.
Was it the wrong number?
They called, not my office,
okay.
But somebody I know that was in my office, okay, sent their online letter, okay, the personal stuff, and one of the representatives called her immediately and said, "Hey, I got your electronic, message here," and started talking to her a little bit. And she was like, "Is this really such and such?" And they're like, "Yeah, it is." And she was like, "So and so on the phone." It's like, what? So after she told me that, I can't remember how much time had passed by, but anyway, I Regina Ward.
My kitty just came in to see me.
Yeah. But Regina Ward, did not get a response to it. But whenever she told me about that particular representative, I just decided to call him up. I said, "Hey, I understand you responded to one of the messages that you receive online." And he was like, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, so and so said blah 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 blah." And he's like, "Oh yeah." I said, Can I put it out in the world that you're going to support this?" Has anybody ever heard me say his name?
No.
Yeah. So the answer to that question was, "No, I don't think so." I'm like, "What?" Okay. Now I was about to say something bad, but I'll keep that back. Anyway, I'm disappointed. I'm so disappointed. And Senator Luke Rankin called me out like a little baby. He said, "That was a political cheap shot." And I was like, "Well, I'm not running for any political office. I don't know how it could be a political cheap shot." But I was like,
he's not gonna like when I put that clip on the air.
Oh, it's already been out there, and I'm gonna say the same thing I said before. If I gotta take a political cheap shot to get your attention, I'm gonna take them.
Yeah.
Got your attention? Oh, by the way, did I mention that my office has been instructed for a while to regularly email and call his office and ask for an appointment?
Have you got an appointment with Senator Rankin?
Nope. He's very busy. He's a very busy man.
You are a constituent of his, correct?
Yeah, he's well. Actually, let me look at this here.
I don't know where you live, but you live in Myrtle Beach, right? So
yeah,
you are a constituent. So I mean, he should.
Yeah, I am one of his constituents. I actually.
By the way, I emailed his office the other day.
Yeah. Did you get a bounce back? I'm not in. I'm busy making law.
I'm going to give him some time, but I have not heard back yet. And I was asking him. All I asked him was, "What is your stance on coercive control?"
Oh, here it is. That's what I've gotten. Well, hey, I took my political cheap shot in June of last year. My office is still on the same place. I haven't moved.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and we'll wait. So we had a big day on the 26th. We had a little bit of a reprieve on the 20th. A little reprieve on the 27th here, but on the 25th, the day before all the happenings down at the magistrate's court, Mr. Miller got served with another lawsuit.
Yes, indeed. He
Oh
did.
Lord, this thing! I took a look at this thing. It's big. It's 40 plus pages
It's massive.
of a Jane Doe.
Hmm.
Actually, what I thought was interesting about it is that Jane Doe number one. Um,
Yeah. Oh, you're paying attention, are you?
yeah, I'm like, why would they just say Jane Doe? And they go, oh, Jane Doe number one. I'm like, well, that
Mhm.
would mean there's a Jane Doe number two
Might be.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Might be number three. I don't know. There's number. I don't know if there's number three or four or
And
five.
you're exactly right about that, Jim. Is usually whenever lawyers, whenever we don't know, like if we have a hit and run and we have to sue John Doe or Jane Doe, whatever, it or any other suits, it's usually just the words John Doe or just the words Jane Doe. If
Yeah,
sex is relevant,
yeah.
as in sexual identity. So if that's relevant, so whenever I saw that number one come out of there. Of course, to be, I mean, a lot of people call my office, y'all. A lot of people call my office, and or have, I should say. And I know I personally have spoken to more than one Jane Doe. Okay,
Well, I mean, I don't know if you've read it, but
I
it's
have
it,
most
it's
of
it,
it.
it's pretty. It doesn't look good.
No, and that's Attorney Hood, and that's his wheelhouse. And I think he, when I read it, I think he did a fabulous job. Of course, with any kind of suit, there's going to be weaknesses and strengths. Okay, the thing for me that I was, regardless, what I think about maybe different parts of the suit, but I think overall he did a great job. I think he did a fabulous job just punching it right in the face in terms of putting the brakes on this issue of statute of limitations. Well, statute of limitations is a very important legal concept, okay? Because you don't want lawsuits hanging over your head perpetually, okay, for
Yeah,
all of time. There has to be an end to it, okay? And so that would have been the very first motion that could be filed in that case is a motion to dismiss because of the potentially the statute of limitations has ran. But there is this concept, and he did a great job. He actually cited it. I was so glad to see it in the pleadings that says, yeah, we know that there may have been a statute of limitations here, but there is case law on point that says there's an exception to that. And there's this concept of repressed memories. Okay. So what the law says when in terms of statute of limitations is that that you need to file your action or it starts like when you find out somebody's caused damage to you, whether it's personally or property or whatever, then the clock starts running, right? There's also the thing where people go, oh, I'll just pretend like I don't know what's happening. Okay. You can't do that because if there's evidence that shows that you should have known, okay, that you had a lawsuit, the evidence of that, then that starts the statute of limitations running as well. And every different kind of suit has different limits. Some is only two years, most are 3 years, a couple are 6 years. So unusual circumstances there. So anyway, he put the brakes on that right away and saying, we are aware of this, but guess what? There is case law on point that talks about this, that you don't, if that memory is repressed like
yeah.
that, then you don't know that you have, and we're talking about a minor, okay, a child who allegedly went through a very traumatic circumstance, okay?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so to repress that, as a child, it wouldn't be uncommon. And it's not until what she just or what's described in the paperwork that can happen. Now, I'm not a psychologist, okay? I'm just a lawyer.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that he did a great job on that. And the thing that and I don't like to use the word happy, but the thing that makes me happy is that it came out, okay, that it happened. I personally know that there's more than a Jane Doe number one, okay, but that doesn't mean that every Jane Doe wants to come forward. But now that Jane Doe one has had you know, the bravery to come forward with her story and file it, I'm praying will embolden and give confidence to anyone else who may have experienced that, whether it's with Mr. Miller or somebody else. Okay. I think that it has a lot of, it puts some momentum to it, and we need that.
Yeah, no, and listen, for anybody who has any of these repressed memories or been a part of any of the SA or
Yes.
DV that's out there, hard thing to go through. I haven't gone through it. I can't speak for it. However, from a legal standpoint,
Mhm.
It's not going to be an easy case when I look at it, trying to
Oh,
argue
it's
that,
not.
because it is not sticking up for JP. Is looking at the law and going, you got to go back to like 1998 and look at a lot of different things. So
Mhm.
it's going to be a hard uphill battle. So, but I just saw also Mark Tinsley, if I believe his name is right,
Yeah.
out of Bamberg, South Carolina,
Mhm.
just joined onto that case. I don't know why he would have, but interesting that he came on. He was part of the Murdaugh trial and the boat crash of Mallory Beach.
And those types of the essay cases, they're always tough. Okay, but that's, like I said, we've come a long way, baby, right? But we haven't
Yeah.
got there yet. But
Yeah.
but the same thing as an attorney, I know that, like I said, there are some weaknesses. There can be some challenges to it as well. But at the same time, okay, those cases are hard to prove. Just like coercive control is kind of hard to prove because the stuff that happens behind closed doors, right? And so there are going to be those challenges. And but right out of the gate, I think he did a great job putting it out there. And if it does nothing else, if it turns out that it's I don't want to use the words it's a weak case. I don't, because I don't think it's a quote weak case. It's just that
It's not a slam dunk.
yeah, it's not a slam dunk. But listen, here's the other thing you have to remember. We're not talking about being charged with a crime. Okay.
Correct.
The burden
Yeah.
of proof for crime is really high. Why? Because you go to jail, you lose your liberty, right? In civil matters, okay, the burden of proof is lower. So everybody's familiar with OJ, allegedly, he got away with killing his wife. They couldn't convict him in criminal court. Okay. But they got him in civil court. Why? Because the burden of proof is different.
Yeah.
So I have hope for it. And if nothing else, it maybe inspire that super strong case to come forward.
Yeah. We've been sitting here for about 2 hours, and I have
Are you
thoroughly.
serious? What?
Yeah, about 2 hours, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it. But I just noticed when I'm sitting here talking to you,
Mhm.
to your, I guess that's your left and behind you,
Yeah,
that
right here.
that lion. No, the lion.
Oh, my lion? I thought you were talking about my Mica duck.
Oh, you have a Mica duck. That's awesome.
Yeah,
No, that lion. You look a lot like that lion behind you. Like,
I correct you. That lion looks a look like.
oh, look at her. She F some people up now. I mean, come on. I mean, you got Tinsley the tiger. You got Regina the lion. That's awesome.
It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you. Inviting me on.
Yeah, let's do this again because I really want to see where you're going with this family court and the divorce thing. I think that's any kind of new technology, if you want to call it technology. But I think you have a great idea.
New methodology.
Yeah, and people don't like change, but if you can make things easier for people,
And cost and affordable, and we'll take payment plans too.
Well, I told you that one friend of mine, between him and his ex-wife, it's like 300 a piece. I mean, it's a more
That's
complex.
right.
Yeah, it's a more complex one. But divorces are not cheap, and But if you can answer those 5 questions as you mentioned,
That's right. And guess what? You don't always have to have the nuclear bomb. Sometimes you just need a water pistol.
that's right. And I will get with you on the letter for the congressman, excuse me, for the legislatures,
Yeah.
and I will get that incorporated into that story. I'll make sure that
Thank you
email.
So much.
Yeah, that email is on there as well, so people can just click on it. It sounds like you've made it super easy for people to do, and the demonstrators keep demonstrating.
Oh,
However,
yes.
what I would suggest to you is take this energy that you have
Oh, yes.
and transfer that energy over into politics, because the power is in politics.
Let's save the living.
Save the living. I mean, we can't bring dear Micah back, but we can save the next Micah, and one person can't do it. Regina cannot do it by herself.
That's right.
She sat here and told you guys the troubles that she has had, and think about her as just an established attorney who's done amazing things for the state of South Carolina, the Horry County, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and the guy's not calling her back. But the numbers, it's the numbers of you people,
That's
because
right.
yeah,
Will gets the oil. It's the truth. So, Mr. Senator Rankin, if you're listening, give me a call.
it is, because I will tell you this. I know this for a fact, is that one letter accounts for a certain number of people. So if they get one letter from somebody, that represents a block of people. So if he gets 100 letters or 200 letters or 1,000 letters,
Exactly.
it's going to overwhelm them, and their numbers are going to show like, oh my Lord, everybody wants this done. So that's how change happens in this country.
It certainly is. And I had somebody ask me this too. I just want to put it out there because I've had people from literally around the world, y'all.
Somebody asked me that question. How can I live in, they live in Europe. How can I help in Europe? So you can answer that.
Send a letter to everybody on our judiciary committee. So, people go, but I don't live there. That's okay. I'll take 1,000 letters from, that's okay. I'll take 1,000 letters from Alaska. I don't care. Just get letters in there. And so they go, oh God, we got another one. Oh God, there's another one. Y'all, how many more we got? Okay.
Right.
So it gets attention. And
remember, this government is from the people and for the people.
That's right.
They are our representatives. Hold them accountable, because they represent us as a people. Yeah. And if the people want a bill and a law about coercive control, then you have to tell them. They're not going to mind read. They're going to do their thing. They're normal people. They have their donors and whatever else they got going on in their life. So you have to let them know. You really do. And I'm not saying take your foot off the pedal on where you're demonstrating over here at all. I'm just saying take that other foot you have and put it on another pedal on politics, because that's where the power is.
That's exactly right. And thank you so much for that. I'm hoping that we'll get something going out of this. And I can't thank you enough for having me on. Appreciate it. I had a lot of fun too.
You're welcome. Let's do this again, and because I want to hear it. And there seems to be news coming out every day on this thing. It's certainly keeping you busy, but she is not taking any more cases of
no contested court, family court matter.
No contested family court.
Still taking, do a lot of DUIs. It is Myrtle Beach and a few other, things. But
yeah, I bet you do a lot of DUIs down there.
We got a lot of car wrecks in Myrtle Beach.
Car wrecks and DUIs. Yeah.
And uncontested family court.
So call her if you get a DUI down there. Have you ever lost a DUI case? How many have you won?
I'm not supposed to be able to say what my record is, but I think that I can say it. I just have to say the caveat is this. I don't recall ever losing a DUI. That I can't guarantee that result.
It's like, giving financial advice in the stock market.
Crashes, that's right.
This is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. You can and will lose money, those type of things. Yeah. All right. Regina Ward, thank you so much. Good luck to you and all your endeavors. You're doing a great job for everybody. We certainly appreciate it. And thank you for helping me, in that yesterday. That was helpful. I appreciate it. All right. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
All right. See you. Bye-bye. Bye.